Good afternoon. Beloved friends, family, and faculty, thank you for being here, and welcome to the 2016 Class Day exercises. My name is Raylan Yant. I live in Lowell House, and I'm honored to serve as First Marshal of the Class of 2016. Thank you. I'd like to start off by thanking the members of the Senior Class Committee for the tireless work they've done to make this Class Day, Senior Week, and Senior Year meaningful and memorable for all of us. I would also like to thank the Harvard Alumni Association and our advisors, Hannah Tressler and Leanne Gaffney, for their endless support. We have a lot to be grateful for today. Thank you to the college for giving us a home for 4 years and for the many strengths we gained from the challenges we faced here. Thank you to our professors and our loved ones for teaching us how to be insightful scholars and compassionate people. Thank you to the Humans of Harvard photo campaign for helping us share our stories with one another and for giving us headshots that will look great on our LinkedIn profiles. Today, Class Day, is an especially apt moment for us to thank and celebrate our classmates. Although the lives we have led here are different, we also have a lot in common. Based on what I've seen our class do, I've learned that all of us are, in our own ways, passionate, enterprising, creative, and thirsty for knowledge. Together, we've shared an experience of tremendous growth over the past 4 years. While we certainly learned a lot from our classes and extracurriculars, it was often during the time we spent with classmates, in D halls, on dance floors, and in dorms that we learned the most. Through those interstitial conversations, our classmates helped us become more than just high-functioning scholars and professionals. They helped us become stronger, more grounded versions of ourselves. They sparked perseverance in us, healed us from heartbreak, reconfigured our worldviews, and reminded us of the vital importance of human connection. Throughout this ceremony, as we listen to the thoughtful words of our dean, our alumni leader, our peers, and our spiritual advisor, Rashida Jones, I invite us all to reflect on the ways being a part of this class has shaped us. And as we move on to the next stages of our lives, I trust that we will not forget the appreciation for the people around us that we feel today. It is now my great privilege to introduce the Danoff Dean of Harvard College, Marvin Bauer Professor of Leadership Development at Harvard Business School, Cabot House Co-Faculty Dean with Stephanie Khurana, Dean Rakesh Khurana.
Thank you so much, Raylan, to you and the other students. We are so grateful for all of you who've done so much for your peers throughout your time at the college. Good afternoon, seniors. So today is your last official day as Harvard College students. I'm sure that some of you are feeling that same jumbled feeling of joy, elation, melancholy, and gratitude that I'm feeling. This was an eventful year for all of us, although these past few weeks have been unusually quiet and free of intense discussions and drama. Even when our conversations have been challenging, I want you to know that I have cherished each and every moment of our time together. Because while we may not always agree on the how, I believe firmly that we all share the same aspirations for our college. I hope that when you look back to your years at Harvard, you will cherish your memories of the thrill that you felt about your classes and teachers, the sense of connection you felt with your classmates from around this nation, and indeed, this world. And the sense of purpose that you gained as you discovered the values and the responsibilities that mattered to you. And above all, I hope that the connections, the friendships, the community you built here are lasting and generative. Look around you. I hope you will treasure these relationships and the imprint they have left on your lives, because they are now part of your story and our Harvard's 4th-century story. Let me start by sharing a little bit with you about what's going to happen tomorrow. Tomorrow will be a joyful and solemn day. You will be part of a 365-year tradition. One of my predecessors described tomorrow as follows: commencement ceremonies are wonderfully ritualistic, full of incantation, and free of explanation. So let me explain. During the commencement exercises, President Faust will confer the degrees for which you have all worked so hard. First, the PhD and master's degrees will be called. Then, the professional schools will be acknowledged in the reverse order of their founding dates. The deans will each make a brief case for their school's graduates. Each school will offer their own cheers and be waving some symbolic totem in the air. Then, finally, the most important moment of the entire ceremony will occur. The college, as the oldest and original part of this university, will be called forth. And then we will get a chance to top all of those more recent additions. We will remind them of the power of our past and the possibilities of our future. So we're going to make some noise tomorrow, right? No, right? It's going to have to be really loud tomorrow, okay? Great. Then when you settle down, I will begin with the salutation, Madam President and Fellows of Harvard College. This refers to President Drew Gilpin Faust and the Fellows of the Harvard Corporation. They form the legal entity that is Harvard University. Then I will greet Madam President and members of the Board of Overseers. This refers to the second governing body of our university and its president. After these salutations, I will announce that you have fulfilled the faculty's requirements for the first degree in arts and science, which you will have, I hope, because it is my responsibility to make sure it's true. Don't get in trouble between now and tomorrow. Finally, I will pronounce that, quote, each candidate stands ready to advance knowledge, to promote understanding, and to serve society. In other words, I will pronounce that you have fulfilled the mission of Harvard College, that you are ready to go forth and become the citizens and citizen leaders of our society. Your families and loved ones will cheer. Their hearts will be bursting with pride. But right now, for one last day, you are still Harvard students. And this afternoon, I want to thank your amazing family members and loved ones for accompanying you on this journey. No one comes to Harvard alone. The people who sit behind you have stood behind you for a long time, and many of them have traveled a long distance and a long way to witness this important moment in your life. One of the greatest gifts for a parent, a grandparent, an aunt, a family member, or friend is to see a child become a fully realized adult. Now let's stand up, class of 2016, and give those people the standing ovation that they deserve. Wonderful. Now for some ancient history. I want to share with you a story about my time in college. During my sophomore and junior years at Cornell, I lived at 934 Stewart Avenue, way up in Ithaca, New York. My apartment was about a 20-minute walk from the main campus, and my bedroom overlooked a waterfall. I have never lived in such a beautiful place since. But for me, the most amazing thing about this apartment was not the view, but that I happened to live next door to Cornell's most famous professor, the astronomer Carl Sagan. Professor Sagan was the writer and the narrator of a documentary series called Cosmos, which sought to introduce science to a popular audience and ended up being watched by 500 million people. He was also a public citizen who was deeply concerned about nuclear proliferation, environmental degradation, and who believed deeply that humans had to find a way to cooperate to maintain peace on this planet. And so there I was, looking out my window at that waterfall, worrying about whether I should take a class I didn't want to take, to help me get an internship in a company I don't remember, for a job I knew I wouldn't like. Meanwhile, this person living next door to me had a very different perspective. To Professor Sagan, the waterfall, Cornell, the journey I was on, all of it mattered, but all of it was part of something much larger and also much smaller. In his book, Pale Blue Dot, Sagan wrote about the photograph of Earth that Voyager 1 took in 1990 from 4 billion miles away. You may have all seen it. It's a blue glowing image of Earth that graces so many books and posters. He wrote, "That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you've ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. Every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every revered teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam." Professor Sagan went on. He said, "There's perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores a responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known." Professor Sagan has had many ideas that have shaped the way those of us who are not scientists think about science. But here's the one that has stuck with me all these years. What we share here on Earth is so much greater than what divides us. And what we share here at Harvard is so much greater than what divides us. During your time here, we have talked at length about what kind of campus we want to be, what path would lead us there. Members of your class have expressed in very heartfelt ways the pain of loneliness and the ways our campus can sometimes feel atomized and needlessly hurtful. You have taken actions to enlarge the circle of belonging and to change Harvard for better. You have created new wellness programs to destigmatize mental health, created new events such as the Halloween and pre-Yard Fest neighborhood parties, opened up organizational membership processes, and started a new senior class reflection program, to name just a few examples. You've not always seen eye to eye with each other or with me on how we can best shape this community that we love. Our conversations these past years, and this year in particular, have not always been easy, but that is good. At Harvard, we don't go for easy. I have been awed and inspired by the way you've engaged respectfully and passionately, regardless of your views. Through your scholarship, your art, your activism, you have demonstrated that it is by emphasizing our shared humanity and shared goals that constructive dialogue can take place. Your class has shown an appreciation for each other's lives, and that our fear of difference and of change can be ameliorated by our compassion and caring for each other. As I've reflected on our conversation, I keep coming back to 4 recurring themes. First, we are all more complicated than the socially constructed categories that are used to define us. Tall, classically handsome, world-class athlete can only tell you so much about me. While categories can be helpful for organizing the world, human experiences and identity are more continuous than discrete. If we are to have authentic conversations about a community or a country or the world, we must begin to be sensitive to differences in degree, not just in kind, which are all important. Second, A community that is genuinely defined by inclusion and belonging is not a community defined by universal agreement or groupthink. It is a community that recognizes the diversity of the world we inhabit. Inclusion allows for comparative thinking, which I believe is as foundational to a liberal education as critical thinking and reasoning. Comparative thinking shows us that there are different ways of interpreting and understanding the world, that the same experiences can be understood by individuals in different ways. It makes us skeptical of our own certainties, opens our minds to other possibilities, and recognizes our fallibility toward parochialism. It builds within us the capacity to resist those internal and external forces that exploit our insecurities or appeal to our penchants for certainty and comfort. Third, disagreement is constructive and important. If we avoid ideas we don't agree with or reject people we disagree with, we won't learn, we won't grow. Good people can and often disagree. When we engage with people who disagree with us, we sometimes discover that we share the same goals. We just disagree about the paths. Sometimes we do disagree about the goals. As you move through life, the people with whom you differ will often also be the people you will depend on to complete a deal, to find a cure for a loved one's disease, solve a community problem, or find a compromise to pass some legislation. Both inside and outside of Harvard, we need to focus on being hard on the problems we hope to solve and easy on each other. Finally, really getting to know those who are different from us makes us feel vulnerable, but it can also bring us a sense of completeness when we connect. We feel vulnerable when our views of the world are questioned or don't seem universal. But when we overcome our anxiety and fear, we begin to see what we share. Starting tomorrow, you will all share your history as members of the Harvard College class of 2016. And I hope wherever you go from here, you will remember that though you may feel like a stranger at times, there are new connections to be made, new shared experiences to be had, and these can convert discomforting strangeness into lifelong friendships. If that 1990 Voyager camera looked down on Earth today or on Harvard today, it would not capture our differences. It would capture what we have in common. And in this global, interconnected world, what we have in common, what we come to understand that we have in common, matters more than ever. These notions of inclusion and belonging that have occupied us this year are not part of some technical exercise confined to Harvard or college campuses. They have real implications for the world we live in. Not too long ago, many of us who are here today would not have been welcome on this campus or at this event because we were born the wrong gender, worshiped the wrong God, or loved the wrong person. The path Harvard as an institution has taken, and we as individuals have taken to reach this moment has oftentimes been rocky, complicated, and built through decisions made by people who were seeking to balance tradition and change, and by people who, many of us will never know, stood up and insisted that this community, along with the world around it, take a step into the future. Tomorrow, when you walk out of these gates for the last time as Harvard students, you will enter a world in which the problems are daunting and aren't going to be easily solved. The reality of our world is that our destinies are intertwined. Economic, social, technical, environmental, all of these changes show us that we are connected to each other, connected to people we've never seen, who have different beliefs from us, but who depend on us just as much as we depend on them. You are fortunate to have so many opportunities available to you in this complicated, pale blue dot, and many choices to make. Some of these choices may lead to a comfortable, conflict-free life, but I hope whenever necessary, you will embrace the rocky, complicated path in spite of the potential for discomfort. Learning to be comfortable with being uncomfortable is essential to growing and learning and to making change. I hope that wherever you go, you will carry with you the best parts of the community you have found here at Harvard. I hope your time here at Harvard inspires you to see this world not merely as a set of problems, but as a set of opportunities, of possibility. I hope you will recognize that frustration and anger, while sometimes important motivators, must be translated into possibility and action if you are to achieve your goals. I hope you will act in ways that acknowledges the presence of our others' views, and it could cause us all to examine our own. And I hope that we will all be willing to reach across boundaries established by categories to imagine alternatives, futures that can be created by a recognition of possibility through a generosity of spirit and through sustained commitment to shared values. Professor Sagan's story resonates with me because it's not just a story of someone who was brilliant and brought science to the general population. It's a story of a particular vision of humanity, of our continuing struggle to recognize each other as people worthy of dignity and respect, to balance the needs of an increasingly diverse population, to create a vision that combats rather than supports, either intentionally or accidentally, structural inequality, poverty, unequal access to health care, and ultimately a story of the struggle to live up to our own ideals. Professor Sagan expressed and lived the idea that, quote, somewhere something incredible is waiting to be known. For you, the class of 2016, many incredible things are waiting to be known, to be experienced, and to be accomplished. Tomorrow, I will, without hesitation, pronounce you ready to advance knowledge, to promote understanding, to serve society. May you all continue to bless the lives of so many as you have blessed my life and Harvard during your time here. Congratulations and Godspeed.
Thank you, Dean Khurana, for those kind and inspirational words. My name is Irfan Mahmoud, and I'm a proud resident of Winthrop House, and I serve as a senior class marshal.
My name is Gabby Ruiz Colon, and I am a proud resident of Quincy House, and I'm another one of your marshals. Together, we have had the great pleasure of overseeing class ceremonies and alumni engagement on this year's senior class committee.
Wow, Harvard class of 2016, we did it. When Gabby and I were envisioning our class day, we thought about how incredible our class really is. We have seen you all succeed spectacularly in the classroom, on the court, in the lab, on the stage, in the office, on the field, and in so many other venues all around campus and far beyond. And here we are as a result of all of our hard work. The zenith of a college education. And tomorrow, we get a degree that means so much, and even more, simply because of the 7-letter word starting with H at the top of that diploma. Class day is a time to reflect. I want to spend this time reflecting on one very important thing: gratitude. We are on the precipice of a huge accomplishment. Of that, there is no doubt. And we ought to be proud of ourselves. But it is so important to remember that we did not do this alone. Think of all of the forces and the people in your life that got you here today. I think of my grandparents, one of whom is in the audience today all the way from Bangladesh. I think of them coming from the villages of Bangladesh to the capital city to give my parents a better life, and in turn allowing my parents to give me and my sister an amazing life. Generations of my family without whom today would have been unfathomable. They say it takes a village to raise a child. Look around you. Likely some of your village is here today. Thank them. But don't stop there. Thank your classmates and your friends for creating your experience here. Thank your professors, your mentors, your house staff, your administrators. Thank those throughout our campus who are unthanked. Thank those who believe in you even when you start to doubt yourself. Thank all the people who held the ladders for you as you got here today. Thank all the people on whose backs your success today was founded. Thank the generations of people who made this campus what it is today, especially those who are unsung and untold. You'll start to realize that today is a great success for not only you, but your entire village. Congratulations, Harvard class of 2016. But let us never forget to congratulate our villages. Thank you, and happy Class Day.
And with these thoughts in mind, I can't help but think of the vision that we as a senior class committee put together at the beginning of the year. And we centered around 3 pillars. The first one was fostering unity and closeness in our class. The second one, promoting a sense and spirit of giving back. And finally, allowing for a reflection of our shared and diverse experiences while in the college. Today on Class Day, I'm excited to be celebrating these 3 pillars through some amazing speeches and reflections from our classmates, deans, and peers. But more importantly, it's so exciting that we're sharing this not by ourselves, but rather alongside those people that have been with us through the highs and lows. First, our families that perhaps picked up a phone call at 1 in the morning when you were freaking out about an orgo exam, but also those friends that have become our families while we were in the college and held us through the highs and the lows. Here's to celebrating the moments that are behind us and getting excited for the memories that will be made ahead. Thank you for the past 4 years, 2016.
Thank you. We would now like to take this moment to thank the Senior Class Committee House representatives for their work during the school year. In particular, we'd like to welcome to the podium Kiran Gupta of Winthrop House and Tanner Skandarian of Mather House.
Hi, guys. Most of us can remember our housing day. We were nervous, superstitious, excited, eagerly waiting by the door for the upperclassmen to come banging it down. And sure enough, our housing letters arrived, and we were immediately welcomed into our new communities with screaming upperclassmen and hype mascots. From the first wild calls of Housing Day, our houses become the Harvard communities that unite us across differences of experience, opinion, skill, and ambition.
Our houses are the center of our social and intellectual experiences, where we eat, sleep, laugh, and struggle alongside our classmates for our 4 years. Over the next few months, we will all scatter across the globe. But these houses are our beloved and spirited families within the greater Harvard network. They will keep us connected and proud throughout. Wherever you are in the world, your house will always be your home.
So, in that spirit, we'd like to take a moment to recognize each of the 2016 House representatives on the Senior Class Committee. They will stand as we say their names, but please hold your applause until all the names have been called. Kat Martinez of Adams House.
Tyler Kramer of Cabot House.
Kat Barton of Courier House.
Sofia Escudero of Dudley House.
Mark Natividad of Dunster House.
Orlia Miller of Elliott House.
Kate Bulasbach of Kirkland House.
Prerna Bhatt of Leverett House.
Preeti Srinivasan of Lowell House.
Nancy Liu of Fortsheimer House.
And Brett Biebelberg of Quincy House.
A big round of applause for our House representatives for all their hard work helping us foster House community.
Thank you, Kieran and Tana. I am Anna Zong, a proud resident of Lowell House.
I'm Lance Katigbak from the best house, Quincy House.
And I am Cindy New, a proud resident of Leverett House, Leverett for Everett. And together, we have served as your media team, putting together everything from Facebook events to Rickroll videos to Match 16. During these past 4 years, we've taken part in a number of Harvard traditions. We celebrated our house pride with shouts, cheers, and face paint on Housing Day, and ran by John Harvard's watchful eye each semester during Primal Scream.
Another one of these traditions is the class color tradition that we first encountered during convocation. 3 class colors, green, blue, and orange, represented Harvard's fiercest academic and athletic rivals, Dartmouth, Princeton, and Yale. The tradition fell out of use during the 20th century and was reinstated in 2012. 4 years ago, the class of 2013 gave us our color, the esteemed orange. Today, our color is a way for us to connect to the past as we carry the same color that the class of 1887 wore, and to the future as we give our color to the class of 2019.
In the 1880s, our class colors were used to assert our dominance over our rivals. We would originally acquire our colors by stealing their school's flags. Today, our color is a symbol of class unity. As you graduate tomorrow, let the color orange remind you that even though we are about to live in different parts of the globe, the relationships formed in the class of 2016 will endure. Aren't you glad about that? Thank you.
My name is Yuning Zhang, a proud resident of Mather House and the treasurer for the class of 2016. It is my honor to introduce the incoming president of the Harvard Alumni Association, Martin J. Grasso, Jr. The founder and CEO of Pearl Street Capital Group, Marty Grasso is a member of the Harvard College class of 1978. He moved into Holworthy Hall from nearby Revere, Massachusetts, later becoming a proud member of Eliot House. As a student, Marty's work-study job as a bartender brought him to staff events at Loeb House, where he got his first glimpse of the vital role that the Board of Overseers and other alumni volunteers play in the life of the university, a precursor to his own alumni service to the university, which has spanned nearly 30 years. In that time, Marty has served as a volunteer fundraiser, a member of his class gift committee, and reunion program committee. He has served on the Harvard Alumni Association board since 2006 in various roles including committee chair, director, vice president of college affairs, and most recently, first vice president. This summer, as we begin our own tenures as Harvard alumni, Marty begins his term as president of the Harvard Alumni Association. Please join me in welcoming Marty Grasso.
Thank you for that very warm introduction, Yuning. Hello to the great class of 2016. Congratulations to all of you for making it to the eve of commencement. I know that you're all anxious to hear from Rashida Jones and some of your classmates, as am I. But before we do, it is my responsibility to give you one last quiz that you must pass before you can officially graduate from Harvard. I know that you didn't anticipate this pop quiz. However, after 4 years of rigorous academic training at Harvard, you certainly are well prepared to ace this simple, one-question, multiple-choice quiz. Of the list of the 4 names that I'm about to give you, I'm going to ask that you please choose the Harvard alumnus who has contributed the most to the advancement of social networking at Harvard. I will read the choices once so that you'll have a minute to think about them. Here they are. First, Chief Marshal of tomorrow's commencement and Chief Financial Officer of Facebook, Sheryl Sandberg, class of 1991. Second, famous author, philosopher, and naturalist, Henry David Thoreau, class of 1837. Third is John Quincy Adams, 6th President of the United States and member of the class of 1787. And last, the CEO and co-founder of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, class of 2006. I'm going to repeat the names, and after each, I'd ask you to please raise your hand for the person whom you think is the Harvard alumnus who has contributed the most to the advancement of social networking at Harvard. Please remember that this is an official Harvard exam, to which the rules of the Honor Code apply. As the proctor for this exam, it is my solemn responsibility to remind you that using your peripheral vision to view your classmates giving their answers could be construed as cheating. So either close your eyes or focus them up here or into the middle distance for you yoga devotees, until you raise your hand after I call the name of your choice. So, how many of you think the answer is Sheryl Sandberg, class of 1991? Okay, thank you. How many of you think the answer is Henry David Thoreau, class of 1837? Have a few Thoreau fans, naturalists, thank you. How many of you think the answer is John Quincy Adams, class of 1787? I hear a wave. Okay, thank you. And how many of you think the answer is Mark Zuckerberg, class of 2006? No. Congratulations to those of you who chose John Quincy Adams. Well done. Who in 1840 was a co-founder and first president of the Harvard Alumni Association, the greatest social networking organization in the history of this fine institution, from which those of you who chose Adams will receive a diploma tomorrow. For those of you who did not choose Adams, and we know who you are because we have special video monitors programmed with biometric identification software stationed around Tercentenary Theater. But for those of you who chose Sandberg, Zuckerberg, or Thoreau, tomorrow in your folders you'll receive a brief list of courses that you can take to make up for failing this exam. And so now the parents are outing themselves by the distressed looks on their faces. And for those of you who didn't raise your hands at all, in your folders tomorrow you will receive a PhD in ambivalence. So you probably don't want to list that on your credentials on your resume. So back to John Quincy Adams for a minute. Why was he, to the exclusion of all the other prominent alumni on the list that I mentioned, the greatest contributor to the advancement of social networking at Harvard? As I'm sure most of you know, Adams was a very learned and accomplished individual who spoke French, Dutch, German, and English fluently before arriving at Harvard at the ripe old age of barely 16 years. He had a long and illustrious career in private law practice and public service that included service in the Massachusetts legislature, the United States Senate, the State Department as ambassador to Holland, Russia, Prussia, and England. And then he was Secretary of State in the Monroe administration and, of course, served as the sixth President of the United States. Despite these abundant and extraordinary life experiences of working with and associating with people of great intelligence from numerous cultures all over the then developed world, Adams still felt as though some of the most interesting relationships that he had formed were with his fellow Harvard alumni, both during the time that he was at Harvard and after leaving Harvard. Indeed, Adams wrote in his journal that he wanted to rekindle some of those important and interesting relationships and conversations that he had experienced while at Harvard. And that desire motivated him to be part of the initiative to create the HAA and be its first president. Adams dearly wanted to rekindle all those great conversations, and why not? To me, the answer to that question clearly is evident amongst the extraordinary individual members of this class of 2016. For instance, who would not want to keep up with your classmate Jennifer Kizza? Jennifer, stand up and take a bow, please. Jennifer was a neurobiology concentrator. She made major contributions to the EMS here at Harvard. She contributed greatly to the leadership structure of the Association of Black Harvard Women and the Harvard Society of Black Scientists and Engineers, and will be attending Oxford next year to study public health. And then there's your classmate, Jonathan Jeffrey. Jonathan, please stand up and take a bow. Jonathan was a history concentrator who was intimately involved in the Mather House Committee, the Honor Council, and served as the only undergraduate committee co-chair of one of the standing committees of the Harvard Alumni Association this past year. Jonathan will be studying at Tsinghua University in Beijing, China, as a Schwarzman Scholar in anticipation of a career in foreign policy. Indeed, the list of interesting folks with whom I am sure all of you will want to stay engaged is quite lengthy. And I am also sure that you would agree that Harvard is an extraordinary institution filled with world-class intellectual and pedagogical resources. But much like John Quincy Adams, I have come to realize, as I am sure you will, that over the years since attending Harvard, the greatest thing that Harvard gives us is, frankly, us. In the collective sense, all of us who have had this common experience of being here, together with our classmates and other fellow Harvard students, in this special place during a unique period of our lives in which we were engaged in the sometimes vexing but always wondrous journey of collaborative learning. Today, my friends, I am delighted to inform you that this journey of collaborative learning and growing together does not end tomorrow. And it is the main mission of the Harvard Alumni Association to create programs and maintain infrastructure that supports your efforts to stay in the conversation and the collective and collaborative learning process that we have been so fortunate to experience. There are countless examples of how the HAA is here to help you stay in that conversation. In fact, right from the beginning of your post-Harvard experience, wherever you locate, for whatever purpose after commencement, you are likely to find a Welcome to Your City event organized by the Harvard Alumni Association in local establishments in dozens of cities around the world. These events provide fun and informal opportunities for recent alumni of the college to meet and connect with each other while welcoming the youngest class, that would be you, of alumni to their new cities. If you are looking for a job, a volunteering or philanthropic opportunity, or just trying to expand your network in real time in a person-to-person exchange, the HAA sponsors regular global networking nights in dozens of venues around the world that range from Albuquerque, New Mexico to Yerevan, Armenia, where alumni from the college and the graduate schools gather and make lots of new friends and create new relationships that support lifelong collaborative learning. There are many other examples of how we help you stay in the conversation. We have in excess of 50 shared interest groups, affinity groups that bring together many subgroups of alumni who share common vocational, avocational, cultural, and ethnic interests and backgrounds. I urge you to join a SIG, as we call them, if you haven't done so already. And we also sponsor 180 clubs in cities around the world that produce consistently excellent programming and events on topics that range from gastronomy to enology, cyber espionage, precision medicine, etc., etc. So please join a club. And then there's the whole part of the HAA that's designed to support all of the activities of this fabulous class of 2016 and all of the other Harvard College classes, such as your quinquennial reunions and your in-between reunion activities. So get involved with your class programming committees to plan and attend events with your classmates, and the HAA will assist with all of the planning and execution of these activities. Indeed, in virtually every aspect of your life after you leave Harvard, the HAA likely has a program or a resource that can improve your experience, expand your network, and enhance the overall quality of your life. In a word, we are at your service. And speaking of service, if you're wondering why I've given so many thousands of hours of my time to the HAA and its affiliates, I hope that I have already made that case clearly. Coming from a working class family and having attended public high school in Revere, Massachusetts, I had neither the credentials nor the experiences that John Quincy Adams had prior to entering Harvard. But I assure you that I, like all of you, am no less endowed than Adams was with the abundant riches of many vibrant, long-lasting relationships upon which I continue to build, thanks to my time at Harvard and my continuing involvement in the Harvard Alumni Association. And so, now that you've heard all about the HAA and its first president, Adams, you are on the precipice of being bombarded over the next 24 hours by all manner of pithy advice about life and how best to live it. I am sorry to disappoint all of you, but this speaker is eminently not qualified to offer any of that. However, in my first act of collaborative learning with you as fellow alumni, I would like to share with you 3 simple who, what, when, where types of advice given by others that have resonated for me throughout the years since my time at Harvard. First, it matters not where you go, but rather what you do when you get there. So said National Humanities Award-winning author Joyce Carol Oates. And as important as what you do is, how it improves the lives of others is the true definition of success. So said Nobel Prize-winning scientist Albert Einstein. And most importantly, in the words of my freshman expository writing teacher, Michael Edelstein, and this is a direct quote, "Always remember that it is not who you know, but rather whom you know." Welcome to the Harvard Alumni Association class of 2016. We are so much better now that you are part of us.
My name is Kia Turner, and I live in Leverett House.
And I'm Jonathan Jeffrey of Mather House. And we are 2 of your gift marshals for this year.
When we launched this year's campaign, we wanted to center it around one theme: look forward, give back. Our Harvard experiences have all been different and have progressed at different paces. We have had great successes and upsetting failures. Yet as we prepare to graduate tomorrow, it's easy to see how Harvard has made an indelible impact on each of us. Our time at Harvard has helped define the kind of people that we will be when we leave. As we look forward to the future, we also recognize that it is important to honor the institution that has helped transform us into the people we are today. Giving back allows us to generously recognize our time at Harvard.
We're proud to stand in front of you today to celebrate our many campaign achievements, but more importantly, to say thank you to you, the class of 2016.
Thank you to almost 800 of you who decided that giving back was important to ensure that Harvard's amazing experience is allowed to keep getting better and better. And special thanks to the 346 of you who even made recurring gifts and committed to supporting Harvard in the future as well.
We would also like to thank Trish Rosidi and the class of 2006 for joining with our class to honor all that this magical place has given us and ensure access to those who come after us with the 50K challenge for financial aid. For some perspective, our efforts have raised enough money to help bring a student to Harvard who otherwise might not be able to come.
And finally, thank you on behalf of those of us who wouldn't be here today without people like you who believed so strongly in the power of this place that they wanted to make it accessible for everyone.
Thank you, class of 2016.
My name is Jennifer Kizza, and I am a proud resident of Winthrop House and one of this year's senior class marshals. I have the pleasure of introducing our first Harvard orator to the stage. The Harvard oration is the speech designed to reflect on our time at Harvard as a class. 2 students are selected to give this time-honored oration, and we think you'll enjoy this year's selection. Our first Harvard orator is Miriam Hassan Jalul, who I had the pleasure of meeting while studying public health together in Sao Paulo back in sophomore year. Miriam was born and raised in Dearborn, Michigan, as the youngest of 4 in her Arab American family. At Harvard, she concentrated in sociology with a secondary in global health and health policy and a language citation in classical Arabic. Between academics and extracurriculars at Harvard, Miriam spent most of her time searching for travel opportunities, which led her to study in countries all over the world, such as Hong Kong, Italy, Brazil, Vietnam, South Africa, and Argentina. When asked, her friends described Miriam as warm, smiley, unapologetically herself, worldly, and a caregiver. Next fall, she will be returning to her home state to pursue a master's in health management and policy at the University of Michigan School of Public Health with the hopes of reinvesting in her Metro Detroit community. She credits her mother and every strong, fearless woman before her for every opportunity and success she's acclaimed. She's currently recovering from a cold, and so is her voice, but please join me in welcoming Miriam to the stage with her oration titled Ode to Harry.
Ladies and gentlemen, look down. You are standing atop miles, literally miles of bookshelves. Beneath your feet are millions of books that stretch 5 floors underground and extend out into this yard. They are part of the Harry Elkins Widener Memorial Library, standing tall behind you. Thanks to the Harvard student tour guides, I've heard the story of Widener Library countless of times in passing while walking to class these last 4 years. Harry Widener was a great lover of books. So in 1912, he went to Europe on a book collecting expedition. Wanting to return to the US as fast as possible, he boarded none other than the Titanic. Sadly, he, along with the rare books he acquired, perished. His mother donated $2 million to have Widener Library built in his memory. But she was a bit skeptical that another rich donor would someday come and have the library changed. So she had one stipulation: not a brick, stone, or piece of mortar shall be changed. Since she refused additions to the outside face of the library, Widener had to be expanded deep underground to make room for its growing book collection. And for that reason, some have referred to Widener Library as the tip of the iceberg. This particular story has always stuck with me because of the unconventional direction of Widener Library's growth. It did not grow upward, it grew downward. If this library grew in proportion to its book collection, it could have been the tallest building on Harvard's campus. And yet, the grandeur of Widener Library is unseen to the outside world. Here at Harvard, where our dreams are big and our financial endowment is bigger, it became difficult to allow ourselves to grow in unconventional directions. We could only succeed in one direction, up. We raised our GPAs, accumulated extracurriculars, and secured internships. These successes were immediately apparent to our peers, employers, and graduate schools. If we ask ourselves why we chose Harvard, my peers will give varying answers. Whether you are a pre-med student who wanted to spend the best 4 years of your life overworked, stressed, and sleep-deprived, or a Gov concentrator who wanted to learn rigorous methods to reinforce your already existing political beliefs, a social science major who wanted to impress your friends with terms like intersectionality, moral relativity, and socially constructed, or an economics concentrator who wanted to give back to the world in meaningful ways by going into consulting, investment banking, and consulting. Whatever the reason, it is because we all hoped at some point in our futures that Harvard would allow us to reach a certain level of success. There's an expectation that we will ascend after graduation. With a crimson H on our resumes, we will rise to the ranks of presidents, Nobel laureates, governors, Pulitzer Prize authors, and heads of state that Harvard has groomed for centuries. However, as we sit atop one of the largest collections of books in the world, we must remember that upward is not always the natural direction of growth. Success is not always visible. If we measure success internally, then that means the outside world will not see all our successes. And I am here to tell you that that is totally okay. It does not take away from their significance, their worth, their power to change the world. These last 4 years, I saw my peers value the successes that would not go on their resumes. I saw PBHA volunteers spend hours beyond their duty mentoring high school students. I saw survivors engage the entire college community in a conversation on sexual assault. I saw my peers from all walks of life march through this yard proclaiming Black Lives Matter. I saw student groups hold vigils for victims of violence from all around the world, from Chapel Hill to Aleppo, from Baltimore to Beirut. We discovered morning prayers in Memorial Church, performed our hearts out in expressions in Gunguru, and gallivanted the world on Harvard's dime. These varying successes were often an invisible force behind the world of our visible achievements. But they were necessary. They were self-defined. They mattered. They helped us foster our compassion, kindness, and patience. They made us human. I think about what would have come of Harry Widener were it not for his untimely death. Would he have grown old as a bibliophile unknown to all but his family? Or would he have become a world-renowned book curator? Regardless, he succeeded in his lifetime, not because of a grand library in his name, but because he pursued what enlivened him until his last day. Back then, Harry's book collection probably meant little to the world, but it meant the world to him. Harry Widener was not a president or a Nobel laureate. He was a man who ardently admired books, and that was his success. The world will often reduce us to the sum of our external achievements. But just like Widener Library, they are just the tip of the iceberg. They are what the world sees, but not necessarily what the world needs. The world needs people who think tender thoughts, whose eyes softly illuminate when speaking of their careers, who leave the world better off than when they entered it. For most of us, doing so requires that we succeed in ways that are unseen to the outside world. So just remember, the glory of Widener Library does not stand in its towering pillars, but in the treasure that grew down beneath your feet. So let us go forth and grow in whichever direction that may be.
Yo. Thank you for your incredible oration, Miriam. Good afternoon. My name is Kevin Lang, proud resident of Adams House and one of this year's Senior Gift Marshals. It truly is an incredible honor and my distinct pleasure to introduce our second Harvard orator and one of my absolute best buds, Minu Park. Born and raised in sunny Southern California, Minu is an English concentrator in Dunster House who would much rather surf or watch reruns of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air than complete his section readings. Formerly a member of the varsity lightweight rowing team, he quickly realized that his love for food outweighs all and moved on from the team after his freshman year. He has since gained 30 pounds of happiness. Minu served as the president of the Asian American Brotherhood and helped facilitate Bible studies with the Asian American Christian Fellowship, two amazing communities that have kept him grounded and accountable throughout college. Beyond the secure gates of Harvard, he plans on exploring the highly unstable and magically unpaid field of entertainment. Please join me in welcoming to the stage one of my absolute favorite people on this campus with his oration titled Bubbles, Minu Park.
I have a pet squirrel, and he lives in my head. And every time I try to start that 12-page midterm paper due in a week, that little squirrel climbs out of the depths of my mind and whispers, 1 week? That's basically an eon. Go get some Kong, hang out with your blockmates. You haven't seen them in days. 2 days left until that paper is due, and just as I'm about to pull out the old Microsoft Word, that little pet squirrel comes out with a cheeky smile on its face and whispers, "You got time. Don't worry. Why, yes, you can work out at the gym for the first time this entire semester. And why, yes, you can spend 4 hours there catching up with all your gym buddies whom you never see at the gym because you never go to the gym." And at this point, in my failed endeavors to start writing, I've grown rather fond of this little pet squirrel. I even named him Bubbles. But then in the blink of an eye, I've got 24 hours to finish 12 pages in the rise of socialism in late 19th century Poland, and I'm freaking out. But you know the drill. Maybe Bubbles, my optimistic pet squirrel who's caused all this anxiety and stress, maybe he has something encouraging to say. Right, Bubbles? Bubbles? Where are you, Bubbles? We all procrastinate, right? Procrastination is as vital to the Harvard student's life as water is to fish, or as lotteries are to Harvard classes. So why do we procrastinate? According to a highly reputable news source, BuzzFeed.com, we procrastinate because we want to escape the traumatic pain that comes with the task that we're supposed to be doing. To all you thesis survivors, it's okay. Your thesis won't find you here. When I was a freshman, the upperclassmen I knew would always tell me, focus on the people here. Apparently, if there was one thing they regretted doing, it was spending too much time grinding away P-sets and not enough time hanging out with friends. So I took their advice to heart. I shouldn't spend time on P-sets? Fine with me. I'll be an English major. No P-sets ever, except for SPU. So after a turbulent freshman year, in which I juggled school with sports, a series of first world existential crises, I found myself sophomore year when I decided I wanted to become a people person. Now, for context, in high school, I was so busy focusing on me that I didn't even know what hang out meant. On top of that, I was an only child who spent much of his formative years swimming, one of the most individualistic and antisocial of sports. So when I decided I wanted to become this people person, it was pretty nerve-wracking. Because in order to be a people person, you need people. But people are weird. And I'm pretty weird, but I didn't know if other people's kind of weird wanted to hang out with my kind of weird. But as it turns out, you all are friendly. And soon enough, as I began choosing to hang out with my friends, rather than study, the term people person became a euphemism for professional procrastinator. I've spent the last 3 years at Harvard, spending entire days foregoing my personal work, only to give in to the sweet temptation of hanging out with the people around me. I remember multiple occasions just freestyling with my buddy Steven until 3 a.m. in the morning. Just saying a lot because I'm not a very good rapper. People, I like to say, are my 5th class, which is also saying a lot because I would never take 5 classes here at Harvard. I'd move from one conversation in the D Hall to another in the common room, mesmerized by my peers' talks of their past travels, their current research proposals, and their determined dreams to change the world. In one particular conversation, Pat, a good friend of mine, told me that he wanted to use statistics to change the world, and that his dream was to someday positively affect 1 billion people. And sure enough, this past winter break, Pat got started on that dream, when in the wake of Nepal's catastrophic earthquakes, he and his roommate decided to travel to Nepal to conduct database research to help improve disaster relief efforts there. Exchanges like this both fascinated me and left me in awe. Sure, at the end of these conversation-filled days, I'd find myself back at my desk in my room, having started none of the assignments or readings due the next morning. But I'd feel incredibly rich and satisfied because I learned so much about the people around me, as if you all were one big storybook come alive. And guess what? Professionally procrastinating my way through college must have paid off somehow. I'm one of the few English concentrators to graduate from my department with a job. And by job, I mean internship. And by internship, I actually mean 2 months of shredding paper, getting coffee, and sharpening pencils, all the things my English degree prepared me for. But professionally procrastinating my way through college wasn't always just fun and games. Though I spent entire afternoons or evenings talking with the brightest, the funniest, the most insightful people I have the blessed opportunity to call classmates, at the same time, I'd ironically feel like a shell of a person, as if I lacked an essence that made me, me, like there was no substance to who I was. And in my efforts to be more sociable, I realized what was really scary was not the prospect of being rejected by people. What was really scary was feeling alone and incompetent, even while being around people I considered friends. After 45 minutes of delightful dialogue, it would be my peers who would have to check their watches and head off to a class or meeting or the library. And I felt like it was my peers, not me, who were diligent and focused enough to take school seriously and make an impact in this world. And I think we've all felt that way, one time or another. Empty, somehow worth less, because of just how amazing our fellow classmates can be. There's this unspoken self-consciousness that pervades, this unintentional belittling of ourselves, that we're not as accomplished or as mature as we thought we'd be after 4 years here at Harvard. And I think it's safe to assume that most of us have wondered, even if for just a moment, am I Harvard's admission mistake? I know I've worried about that. At the same time, as I stand here today, re-examining how I used every moment of my precious time here at Harvard, I don't regret a thing. Sure, I might not be the most impressive student here with the best GPA or the most stunning accolades, but what I do have is a collection of experiences derived simply from talking with other people, and I think that's what Harvard is about. Because if more time procrastinating means that you had an intense heart-to-heart with your 2 other roommates, then maybe that inefficient cramming later on was worth it. I'm more driven now to do something, to be someone, to change the world, to leave an impact than I've ever been before, precisely because of how I've been shaped and fueled by all of your stories. And unlike the section readings I didn't do for my classes, I'll actually remember your stories a decade or 2 from now. Whatever pathways we embark on, one thing is for sure. We'll always face trade-offs trying to find the perfect balance between focusing on our own work and engaging with other people. And at these crossroads, there will be a voice inside of our heads. Now, whether that voice manifests itself as your conscience in the form of an optimistic pet squirrel is not the point. What matters is that we listen to that voice and that we take the time to consider the unexpected values that we might learn from the people around us. So, to the graduating class of 2016, I have a pet squirrel, and he lives in my head. and I hope he continues to live there for a long, long time. Thank you.
Thank you, Minu. Good afternoon, faculty, friends, and family of the class of 2016. My name is Jen Liu, a proud resident of Quincy House, and serving as one of our senior class marshals.
And my name is Andrea Ortiz. I'm a proud resident of Kirkland House, and I serve also as a marshal.
Today, it is our honor to introduce the recipients of the Richard Glover and Henry Russell Ames Memorial Award. As many of you already know, the members of the class of 2016 have shown a great commitment to the service of others over the past 4 years. This includes service to Harvard, the nation, and our global community. Many members of our great class have gone 4 years without any recognition for their hard work, compassion, and determination to help others. However, the Richard Glover and Henry Russell Ames Memorial Award works to honor 2 unsung heroes of the class of 2016.
On June 19, 1935, Richard Glover Ames and Henry Russell Ames, brothers and Harvard students, gave their lives to save their father, who was washed overboard during a storm off the coast of Newfoundland. Every year since, the Ames Award has been given in their memory to recognize 2 members of our class who have shown energy in helping others and who exhibit the same heroic character and inspiring leadership as the Ames brothers. The selection committee received a large number of nominations from faculty, faculty deans, tutors, and fellow seniors. The decision process was incredibly difficult, and we could not be more proud of our classmates who have made such a tremendous impact on their communities. We invite all of the nominees for this year's Ames Award to please stand or raise your hand and be recognized for your commitment to service and leadership. Please join us in congratulating all of the nominees.
At this time, it is my great pleasure to introduce the first recipient of this year's Ames Award. Andrea will present the second recipient. Our first recipient of the Ames Award has dedicated herself to serve as an advocate for gay rights and a leader in change and disability considerations. As a scientist, she has worked to provide support to her peers in the STEM fields as one of the founders of the Harvard College Bisexual, Gay, Lesbian, Transgender, Queer, and Allied Students in the Sciences, otherwise known as HBASIS. She has advised many students within her organizations, which include Relay for Life, the Harvard College Disability Alliance, Women in Science, and the Harvard College Stories for Orphans, bringing her peers closer to faculty, all with a spirit of collaboration, love, and creativity. Outside of Harvard, our first recipient has been a leader in the GLBT Commission in Cambridge, and most recently, the Somerville Cambridge Elder Services, where she has formed an intergenerational LGBT Elders Committee and created the first LGBTQ public service initiative at Harvard, connecting the seniors in our community to us students. She has been described as someone with an inspiration and thirst for service to counter injustice, and an encouraging and empowering presence for all those around her in the most modest manner possible. Please join me in congratulating our first Ames Award recipient, a fellow Quincy House resident, a leader and a giver, Gabrielle Milner.
now my pleasure to introduce our second recipient of this year's Ames Award. She has been described as one of a kind, the most empathetic, kind, and giving soul, a true Wonder Woman. Throughout her past 4 years, she has worked tirelessly with the Harvard Square Homeless Shelter, going above and beyond for her fellow staffers and guests, and exemplifying compassion for all at all times. Whether it is taking a shift when someone couldn't make it, or becoming a leader of the organization and calling for policy change, making sure that the shelter ran smoothly to form a cohesive whole, and handling emergencies with the utmost grace and cheer. Beyond her engagement with the homeless shelter, she has been a leader for Strong Women, Strong Girls, a leader for the Harvard Undergraduates Raising Autism Awareness Organization, an Alzheimer's buddy volunteer, a CityServe leader, and a driving force behind Y2Y. Even in organizations where she hasn't held official leadership responsibilities, she has gone above and beyond. Whether it's retrieving a van 45 minutes before all the other volunteers arrive, or helping lead trainings within PBHA. She has been described as someone driven by a deeply rooted sense of empathy for everyone around her, and our communities are better off because of her. Please join me in congratulating my pre-orientation roommate, my dear friend, and a proud resident of Mather House, Allison Torsiglieri.
Good afternoon. My name is Isaac Alter. I am proud to serve as a senior gift marshal, and I am a proud resident of Cabot House.
Hi, and I'm Annie Dang, one of your senior class marshals this year, and a proud resident of Adams House.
We have all spent 4 years here in these buildings and on these walkways, sharing memories both joyous and sad. One feeling we have likely all experienced, and one that we will continue to experience as a class, is the feeling of loss. As we look forward to sharing our graduation with friends, family, and mentors, we can all reflect on those with whom we will not be able to share this moment.
Today we celebrate the class of 2016, and we remember those who could not be with us. 2 years ago, we lost a faithful friend and classmate. To commemorate Andrew's son, known to many as Andy, we invite to the stage his blockmates and friends, Jacob, David, and Daniel. Please join me in welcoming them.
Thank you for that introduction. Tomorrow, as we come together in our caps and gowns, a very special member of our class will be missing. 2 years ago, on April 6th, during our sophomore spring semester, we received news that one of our best friends, Andy's son, was in critical condition at Mass General Hospital, where he later passed away. It was extremely difficult to see Andy go. Yet just as we did 2 years ago, we now take time to reflect on how thankful we are for the memories that we shared with him. Andy was quiet, a little strange, and very easy to like. He had a calm presence that made people around him feel comfortable, and his smile is one that is hard to forget. Andy and I both loved watching basketball. His two favorite players were Jeremy Lin and Stephen Curry. After watching Lin's games, Andy would tweet him tips on his shooting form. And whenever Lynn wasn't playing, he'd always tune in to watch Steph. It's only fitting, in a sense, that in the time since Andy's passing, Curry has blossomed into a 2-time MVP with a championship under his belt, and I could only imagine how proud Andy would feel today.
Many of us remember a period at the end of freshman spring when every other phrase out of Andy's mouth seemed to be an emphatic, "Jesus Christ, baby!" Now, this could come really at any time, whether it was after sinking a 3 in basketball, or as he ran around the room after scoring a goal in FIFA, or even just randomly at the dinner table. It is indeed difficult to overlook Andy's faith in God. His faith was an integral component of his character and was constantly shaping his actions. One day during sophomore fall, Andy and I were walking along Brattle Street on our way back to the quad. A man on the side of the street noticed us and asked if we could spare any change. I looked around, spotted a penny on the ground a few yards away, picked it up, and gave it to the man. Andy, on the other hand, asked if he could buy the man dinner. Surprised at the offer, the man agreed. As I walked back to the quad, Andy went to dinner with a complete stranger. Andy was never afraid to step out of his comfort zone for the sake of others, and he valued every relationship he had.
I can now recall the countless times when Andy, after he'd finished his piece set in half the time it took me, would just sit beside me while I studied. Most of the time, he wouldn't even say anything. He would just sit there quietly, reassuring me with his presence. Andy was a true friend. He would listen to me, vent about schoolwork, express frustrations with my relationships with girls, or lack thereof, or about my random pseudo-philosophical conjectures. He was there for me in my good times and in my bad times. And that is his lasting legacy. I know others would agree with me in saying that had it not been for Andy, we would not have been able to make it through some of our most difficult times here at Harvard. So now, as we gather together, this penultimate time as a class, and dwell on his memory, I'd like to express our gratitude for Andy. We thank him for being our friend and for showing us what true friendship looks like. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob, David, and Daniel. My name is Wesley Rivera. I'm a proud resident of Mather House, and I served as a senior gift marshal this year. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing the first Ivy orator to the stage. The Ivy oration is the speech designed to be a humorous address on our time at Harvard as a class. 2 students are selected to give this time-honored oration, and we think you will enjoy this year's selection. Our first Ivy orator is Aaron Henricks. During his time at Harvard, Aaron made his fellow students laugh as head of the improv group, the Immediate Gratification Players, and he made his fellow students angry as president of the Harvard Republican Club. Just kidding. Aaron is from Lakeland, Florida, and excited to move back to Florida to work in state government. Please help me give a warm welcome to Aaron Henricks with his oration titled, The Other Martian.
My fellow seniors, proud parents, and overzealous high school juniors watching the live stream, welcome to Class Day. Now, of course, it's an honor to be here with Rashida Jones. Rashida, I'm a huge fan. No one is better at playing the friends of funny people than you are. We are about to graduate from what is, according to dozens of publications and Chinese grandmothers everywhere, the best school in the world. Yeah. Now, many of us here, myself included, never even dreamed that we would get in, even though I think my good friend Todd Lowell Annenberg IV had a pretty good idea. Now, we're here today to talk about the future. Now, the future is one of those words that terrifies Harvard students, like B+ or XBOS 10. What are we going to do next? Like most government concentrators, I am brilliant. And I've already figured out this what to do with my future question. And like a government student taking a take-home final, I'm going to share my answers with you today. Unlike the coat checkers at freshman formal, ladies and gentlemen, I know exactly what I'm doing. I am going to do something that no Harvard student has done before, and I'm about to make pretty big news announcing it today. Ladies and gentlemen, I, Aaron Henricks, am going to colonize the nearby planet of Mars. Mother, father, contain your pride. That's right, everyone. Although it seems like Harvard students have done everything humanly possible, no Harvard student has gone to Mars yet. And before you say it, I have reviewed the tapes. Matt Damon's trip was staged. And I really can do this. My GoFundMe already has $20. Only $7 billion to go. Now, donations of $5 will get you a postcard from Mars. Donations over 100 million will get you a postcard and a keychain. I am going to be the very first human being to step foot on Mars. And right now, I want to convince all of you, the class of 2016, to come with me on my galactic journey. In this sense, think of this speech as one final recruiting session, except everyone gets a job. Of course, for the record, I will be Neil Armstrong and the rest of you Buzz Aldrin losers, but still imagine it. Hundreds of thousands of miles away, Mars awaits. More fun, more free, more tan. The place of our dreams. Think Stanford, but a planet. Now, I know what many of you in the audience are thinking right now. I already have plans. This doesn't fit on my resume. I can't find my grandson. And sure, many of us are already wildly successful. Some of you have made scientific breakthroughs in labs. Others have performed across the globe. Well, just yesterday, I got through one of those try not to laugh or smile YouTube videos without laughing or smiling. But even the Rhodes Scholars among us will have to eventually take off their robes, remove their powdered wigs, and ask themselves, could I have done something truly extraordinary? Trust me when I say this, exploring a new planet is a more extraordinary idea than whatever you have planned. We'll be entering a totally new and bizarre world, disrupting the past and inspiring countless generations to come. It's like we're new girl members of the SPE. Now, for those of you who might not know what the SPE is, it's a former single-sex, gender-exclusive social space that's now a gender-inclusive, exclusive social space. Not to be confused with the current gender-exclusive, social-exclusive spaces. Those are the bad ones. Now, while you're up here, I have one question, Dean Karana. Do these sanctions apply to my bedroom? Because it's been single-sex exclusive for 4 years now. I find myself digressing. We as a class need to go to Mars because going somewhere new is what life is all about. Even though Mars won't be that different from the Harvard we know and love. Mars has no oxygen. Harvard has no hot breakfast on weekdays. At Harvard, you have blockmates, while on Mars, you will have podmates. Or in my case, They will say they'll be your podmates and then kick you out last minute through a series of Snapchats. Unfortunately, there is no geotag for rock bottom. Obviously, like Harvard, the new Mars colony will also be exclusive. There will be places you won't be allowed to go, not because rich white boys say you can't, but because the radiation will kill you. Experts tell us that at first we'll live in cold, rocky tunnels underneath the Martian surface. But to that I say, it can't be worse than Winthrop. But they're renovating it. No, Harvard, you are putting lipstick on a pig. Dean Karana, tear down that house! The intense trials and tribulations of Harvard classes and activities have prepared us for anything, even a hostile planet. For divest Harvard, Mars is perfect for you. No fossils to fuel. Even though with temperatures in the negative 100 degrees, even you may wish it was getting warmer. Now, pre-law students, you'll be able to write up rules on a new planet that ensure religious liberty, so that CS50 TFs can still worship their God King, David Malin. Print F, bless his name. For students who may want to perform a black mass, well, besides the Kong, the red planet may be the last desolate wasteland willing to host you. And finally, for the famous Quidditch team, since there's reduced gravity on Mars, your insane delusions of flight will be slightly less disturbing. It's going to be hard, but given time and if we pool our diverse resources, I know that we can master life on Mars. Or better yet, we can faculty dean it. Now, I know that some of you regrettably may not join me. And that's okay. It's not the first time I've been told no. Just ask the Lowell Dining Hall card swiper. But let's face it, it's okay if you don't come with me. Just because you don't have a $2 billion spaceship and enough dried food to last a lifetime, which I will have one day, doesn't mean you're not stepping out into the unknown. For me, I'm going to Mars because I love exploring, and because Goldman wouldn't hire me. But we'll all be crash landing into something completely new tomorrow morning. We will miss our friends dearly. We will hate our own cooking, and we will, from time to time, wish desperately that we could take a rocket back to the comforts of Harvard. I am here to tell you today that that is okay. No one in the history of the world has discovered anything about the surroundings or themselves without missing the past or fearing what's to come. Except maybe Yo-Yo Ma. That guy really got it. But thanks to the last 4 years here and to each other, I know that we are ready for what's next. So to the class of 2016, good luck. Whether you're heading to a new job, a new city, or a new planet, I know that the future doesn't have to be scary. In fact, it's going to be fantastic. Our cars will fly higher than our inflated GPAs. Harvard's endowment will be bigger than our expanding sun, and its acceptance rate will be smaller than the polar ice caps. Unlike Matt Damon, we will actually go to Mars. And unlike Matt Damon, tomorrow morning, we will actually graduate from Harvard College. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Aaron. Mars might be lonely, but you've had good practice from being a Republican at Harvard. My name is Jenny Gao. I am a proud resident of Kirkland House and one of this year's senior class marshals. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing our second Ivy orator, Christina Teodorescu. She hails from Marlborough, Massachusetts. She is a history concentrator
but did not write a thesis, opting instead to help her friends get through theirs by constantly peppering them with horrible jokes, her true specialty, which you will soon hear firsthand. Over the course of her college years, she was placed in charge of WERB, the Harvard radio station, worked in the Science Center basement as a student computing technician with Harvard University IT, helped out in various capacities on the Elliott House Committee, provided assorted services, comedic and otherwise, to On Harvard Time, was a member of the Advocates Poetry Board, and served a brief stint on the Crimson editorial board. She also has a severe caffeine addiction, and this is a cry for help. Please join me in welcoming Christina to the stage with her oration titled, Add Thoughtful Title Here.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Class Day, and thank you so much for coming out in this ad weather here. Add witty comment about weather. Shoot. It seems that between my academic commitments, extracurricular responsibilities, part-time job, and an unexpected illness, I haven't been able to give this assignment the in-depth thought it deserves. Might it be possible for me to get an extension? No. Apparently not. Okay, well, sorry, I'll use what I have. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. To the administrators and faculty, whom I assume are already intoxicated enough to not be paying attention, thank you for creating a system that sets your students up for a lifetime of being 7 minutes late to everything. To the families, parents, siblings, grandparents, assorted other relatives, thank you for traveling so far to be here. If you did not travel far, like my own family, who drove less than an hour to get here, you are deserving of no thanks whatsoever. And finally, to my fellow students in the class of 2016, thank you for embarking on and now nearly completing this crazy, crazy journey with me. To those who knew me, even as a vague acquaintance or as girl in section, I'm sorry. To those who didn't, you've nearly made it. Escape unscathed while you still can. Harvard is a funny place. Not literally, at least if you're judging by the quality of the lampoon. But in a figurative sense. On the one hand, we leave it with a plethora of shared experiences, memories, and deeply rooted neuroses that will last a lifetime. Calling this place home for 4 years leaves unmistakable marks, like an aversion to walking anywhere with quad in its name, even though you'd walk much further to get somewhere else. Here's looking at you, Northwest Labs. But on the other hand, the Harvard experience is something of a misnomer. Sure, we all went here, cried here, laughed here, manically cry-laughed as the last remaining scraps of our sanity rolled away from us in the wee hours of the morning before a final paper or P-set was due. All here. But trying to figure out what to say to more than 1,600 individuals, many of whom I've never been able to meet, was like trying to find a reasonable Crimson staff editorial. Probably not impossible, but not really worth the effort. There are some keywords that unite us all. Mumps. Swy. Incommunicado. And key questions, like how am I supposed to reenact scenes from Good Will Hunting now that both the Bow Street Dunkin' Donuts and Au Bon Pain are gone? And now that we're about to graduate, how exactly does one adult? But even these common threads of experience present their own problems. Most of us manage to steer clear of the mumps, one of the many fringe benefits of not being in the Phoenix. Some of us, perhaps, harbor a deep but secret love of Swy that we'll take to the grave. Some of us, poor souls, have never even seen Good Will Hunting. At least no one knows how to be a real adult yet. If they claim to, they're lying. But seriously, if someone can explain to me how exactly I get 401k dollars into my 401k, please hit me up. Lucky for us, there's no correct way to adults, just as there was no correct way to Harvard. What does it even mean to Harvard? Is it having more snow days during your time here than there were during the entire 20th century? Is it walking into the Queen's Head pub with your best friend, Ben Affleck, and hearing him declare, "So this is a Harvard bar"? Is it getting pink eye from Mather Lather? Or could it be something else entirely? Take me, for example. Not that this speech is or should be all about me, but this is a story with which I happen to be familiar since I was there for some of it. You think I'm talking about blacking out, but don't be ridiculous. I didn't party. My trips to the hospital were for kidney stones. I say trips, plural, because there were 2, and the second time I had to convince UHS that I was not, in fact, pregnant. That I am standing here before you is nothing short of a miracle. If there were an award for messing up as much as it is possible to do at Harvard, I would have probably messed up getting that, too. I skipped classes. Didn't study for classes, and then, to my great astonishment, failed classes. And I don't mean I got a C, I mean I failed classes. We are talking academic probation for multiple semesters level stuff. Truly, impressively awful. I switched my concentration so much that the registrar's coping mechanism became to flat out ignore me. And I could never seem to remember that Noakes has a $7 credit card minimum, but I was always given pizza anyway, so maybe we can call that a win? The point is, I made mistakes. A lot of mistakes. If the Harvard experience were a midterm, I would probably have gotten like a 25%. So I passed with flying colors, and here I am today. But the larger point here is that we've made it. Science or humanities, river or quad, board plus spender or board plus hoarder. Yeah, that's right, we see you, people who have $100 left in May. We're all here now, and we're all about to embark on yet another adventure together. I'm getting all choked up just thinking about it. My jaw's swelling with emotion, or maybe that's just the mumps. And even though there won't be a screening of Love Story to ease our transition into the real world, if I manage to dig my way out of the catastrophe that was much of my time in college, none of you have anything to worry about, except maybe scheduling dentist appointments, because how do those even work? Do you call them on their cell phones late night when you have tooth pain? Can you order them on Amazon Prime? Do you tell them, we should grab a meal sometime, so you never have to go? I guess these are just things we'll have to find out in the real world. Thank you all for the last 4 years, and good luck, not that you'll need it, with adulting. And thank you in advance for the couches I hope you will offer me when I'm inevitably fired for pushing back on comments in meetings, and for being woefully underprepared for major events. Add poignant but hilarious conclusion here. Damn it. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Shori Hijikata, a proud resident of Elliott House, and I am honored to be your class secretary. This year, I've had the privilege of filling your inboxes with everything from senior swag and hundreds of senior shout-outs to news about Senior Week and Match 16. As we go into the real world, the content of these emails will change, but you'll continue to hear from me as we celebrate our classmates becoming the next president or Nobel Prize winner, as we each change the world in unique and wonderful ways, and as we look forward to our many reunions. And while it might seem a little daunting to leave behind this incredible community that we have here, know that wherever you may be in the world, Harvard, and the class of 2016 especially, will always be with you, in spirit and in your inbox. Thank you.
It is now our honor to introduce our keynote speaker, an accomplished screenwriter, philanthropist, comic book author, actress, and Harvard College graduate, Ms. Rashida Jones. Many of you know Rashida from her work on the screen with roles in more than 20 films and some pretty defining roles during our time in high school and college, including The Office and, of course, Parks and Rec, and now most recently as the title character in the TBS comedy Angie Tribeca. Outside of the big screen, Rashida has been an advocate for social change and has been called by Entertainment Tonight as one of the coolest women in Hollywood.
Rashida is undoubtedly a force to be reckoned with in Hollywood, and her incredible presence on the screen makes her a household name. What connects her to us, however, is our shared experiences as Harvard College students. As a concentrator in comparative religion and proud resident of Eliot House, she knows what it is like to sit in our seats on this special day. In fact, she is our first Legacy Class Day speaker, as her father, Quincy Jones, spoke on her own Class Day. As a woman of color alumna who is now a leader in Hollywood, she shows us the incredible impact we can have in any arena of the world. Thank you for being a role model and an inspiration to the Harvard class of 2016 and beyond. It is our pleasure to welcome her back to Harvard Yard. Ladies and gentlemen, Rashida Jones, class of 1997.
Thank you. Hello and good afternoon. Before I start, I'm being told that the billionaire who endowed a gray 2007 building at the corner of Kirkland and Quincy Street, your building is in a loading zone, so you're gonna need to move that building or it's gonna be towed. Thank you. Harvard, what's up? What's up? Graduates, faculty, class marshals, President Faust, Dean Karana, honored guests, parents, confused tourists, friends, bored siblings, and other family members. Thank you so much for having me here today. And congratulations to all of you, particularly the class of 2016. And congratulations to the parents. Parents, today's a big day for you too. You've significantly lowered your chances of your kids moving back home. It could still happen though, so don't get cocky, okay? Don't turn that room into a home gym yet. When I first got the call to be the Class Day speaker, I was touched and thrilled, and I swelled with pride. Of course, that call came in 2011, and they only called me because they needed me to forward the request to Amy Poehler. But this year, when I got the call, I had the same reaction I had when I was accepted to Harvard. Wow! A bunch of people said no, and they had to go to the waiting list. That's true, I was on the waiting list. Nonetheless, this is a dream come true, so thank you for allowing me to be here today. I graduated from this esteemed establishment in 1997. 19 years ago, I was right where you are. I was poised to receive the highest collegiate honor in the world. So naturally, I slept through my alarm and was woken up by my boyfriend's roommate. Panicked and hungover, I checked my pager. That was cutting edge back then, by the way. And as I bolted to the yard, I threw on my cap and gown like I was in a John Hughes movie and made it just in time for commencement. I wish I could say a lot has changed since then. Fortunately, the exact same montage played out this morning, minus the cap and gown, plus a newly chronic knee problem, which slowed me down. And obviously, I have a much nicer pager now. Just standing here in Harvard Yard, I can easily transport myself back in time. I made so many wonderful memories here on this campus that will last a lifetime. Taking a quick power nap backstage at Sanders before an Opportunes jam, catching some truly impressive Z's in Lamont Library, falling asleep being anywhere near the Science Center. And then some non-sleep related memories, like pre-gaming for a 90s dance at Eliot House, which at the time we just called a dance. Hooking up with someone in Kirkland so I wouldn't have to walk all the way back to Courier. Hooking up with someone in Dunster A entry so I wouldn't have to walk all the way back to Dunster C entry. In short, I really took advantage of the best Harvard had to offer. By the way, I love that you guys always applaud for your houses. And I wanted to test that out and see if I could, say anything about any Harvard house and get applause. So let's try it out. Adam's house! What's up, Lowell? The fifth best house is Winthrop. Mather House, you're an eyesore. Really? That works? Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. And students, I know that you may be sad to be leaving college, and you should be, but if you're lucky, your memories will follow you forever. Even though they live all over the world, many of my closest friends are still the ones I made right here in the yard. And I've been lucky enough to work with several of them. For example, Michael Schur, class of '97, who was a writer on The Office, creator of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and most important to me, creator of Parks and Recreation. But before all that, he was my first romantic co-star ever in the 1993 Leverett Old Library production of the not-so-classic play Love, Sex, and the IRS. The play opened every night with Mike and me making out on a couch. And 20 years later, Mike and I have birthed a rule-breaking, chestnut-haired, cunning, naive, sophisticated, newborn baby sunfish nurse named Ann Perkins. So the moral of the story is, if you make out with someone in Leverett Old Library, you're guaranteed at least a network sitcom. If you make out in Quincy Cube, you're lucky if you have a web series in your future. An extended suggestive hug in the Courier dining hall means nothing. You get nothing for that. Believe it or not, though, I didn't leave Harvard with ambitions to make it in Hollywood. No, I left Harvard to make history. And I'm proud to say you're watching history being made right now. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's true. I am the only second generation Class Day speaker at Harvard in the history of mankind. Thank you. Huge accomplishment today. And as they mentioned, my father, Quincy Jones, was my Class Day speaker in 1997. So, hopefully one of you graduates out there is my illegitimate child, and you will be up here speaking in 20 years. Don't laugh, it's possible. I was pretty hungover right about the time all of you were conceived. Just kidding, I don't have kids. Or do I? I don't. Maybe I do. No, seriously, I don't, and I really don't appreciate you pressuring me about this. As I look around, though, I'm reminded of not only how Harvard influenced me, but also how I influenced Harvard. I was always very outspoken politically. For example, there was an important, some would say, historic moment in 1995. My sophomore year, a frozen yogurt machine was installed in Courier House. As to be expected, lives were changed. And I just reread the inspirational quote I gave the Harvard Crimson about that froyo machine. It provides automatic gratification, says Rashida Jones, class of '97. All you have to do is pull down the lever. And that, my young friends, is what I'm here to tell you today. All you need to do in life, whoa. Everything okay? That's what I'm here to tell you today. All you have to do in life is pull down the lever. I'm just kidding. Could you imagine if I gave a whole speech about fro? You guys would be so bummed. Okay, and my illegitimate child would never get a chance to speak here in 2038 or whatever. So as you embark on your real-world journey and leave behind the ivy-covered, cereal-stocked dorms of Harvard, I do feel it's my responsibility to tell you something meaningful. Something that will not only inspire you, but also arm you with a key to unlocking future opportunities. After all, as Harvard graduates, this commencement is literally the only time anyone will be rooting for your success. America loves an underdog, and you are not underdogs. You are now the opposite of underdogs. It doesn't matter if your application was a sob story. It doesn't matter what financial and personal obstacles you've overcome. It doesn't matter if you're the first person in your family to graduate college and your grandma is crying right now. Tears of joy, tears of the American promise, tears of generations who sacrificed and lived and worked and died so that you could stand here and accept a diploma and fulfill a century's worth of dreams. No one cares. Because now you're Harvard graduates. Yes, you are overdogs. Get used to it. Anytime someone asks you where you went to school and you answer Harvard, they're gonna say, oh, Harvard, okay, I get it, you're smart, stop bragging. Everyone's just gonna assume that you went to college with Malia Obama even though you just missed her. So by the way, start practicing your lies right now about how you were her classmate. Oh, Malia, yeah, we were really close. We took Ec 10 together, which is a very intimate class. And I remember saying to Malia, I bet you learned a thing or two about economics at the White House. We had a good laugh, Malia and I. She's great. And yet, as you head out into the world with this insane head start, you're still gonna need advice because you're idiots. I'm sorry, it's true. I didn't know it either at 21, but it's true. If it weren't true, why wouldn't you have chosen to go to Stanford, where the weather is sick and it's right next door to Silicon Valley? And you could have just used your student population as beta testers for some awesome new app and then sold it right there. It's just a car right away. Not only did you not pick the right school, you actually chose to graduate from it. No one successful graduates from Harvard. As mentioned, Matt Damon, William Randolph Hearst, Bonnie Raitt, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, dropouts. Can you name anyone cool who did graduate from Harvard? No. I looked it up, and there's not a single example of a successful person that graduated from Harvard. But Rashida, you may ask, what about you? Sure, fine, I'm doing all right. But Zuckerberg is doing real all right. He's killing it. Just because you made this stupid mistake of graduating from Harvard doesn't mean you can't fix it. You're young, you have time. You're thinking, I'm only 21, let me enjoy my life a little. Sure, enjoy your life, but just remember that 17,000 vape hits later, 20 years will have passed, and you will be asking yourself giant questions about work-life balance, priorities and passion, meaning and direction. And you will be both empowered and constrained by the choices you make and the ones you don't make the minute you walk out of this yard. So my self-imposed job today is to spare you from the midlife crisis that is silently and patiently waiting for you in your 40s. This may not sound like a pressing issue today as you prepare to enter the land of adult responsibility, but every move you make from now on is creating the map, the foundation on which you build upon for your whole life. It's crucial that you start thinking about how you're gonna avoid getting your first tattoo at 45. So before you glaze over, I'd like to offer 3 simple pieces of advice. 1, don't count on the system. 2, protect your instinct to care. And 3, choose love. 1, don't count on the system. You're here, you did it, you're graduating from Harvard. After 4 years of determination and studying your nuts off, you finally crossed the finish line. You got here because you're a rule follower, and that's great. You trusted in the system, and the system rewarded you. You did all the right things. You were the star of your high school. You got the grades. You were in all the extracurricular activities. You charmed the teachers, and you duped the Harvard admissions team by greatly exaggerating how much you learned on your 3-day volunteer trip to Haiti. I know this because I'm just like you. I told my parents when I was 4 that I wanted to go to Harvard. I recognized that on the path to getting there were concrete linear steps to be executed, and I loved the inherent structure in that. I respected authority. I trusted in the system. I really liked those walk and don't walk signs. I believed that I would always find wise, experienced people at the helm of well-run and fair enterprises, and that these people would exercise power and distribute opportunity with thoughtfulness and nobility, and that I couldn't possibly understand the complexities of their process. There would always be a collective that would know more than I. And even if I didn't have empirical proof that I should trust in them fully and wholly, I just had to, because that's just the way things worked. After graduating, I spent the next 10 years enjoying a decent amount of success as an actress. I could support myself, which, in an overcrowded, unmeritocratic system like Hollywood, is a big accomplishment. Fast forward to 2007, where I found myself in a bit of a rut. I'd just come off a great year-long stint guest starring on The Office, my biggest break to date. But once again, I was back to pounding the pavement, auditioning for movies and TV. And with the threat of an upcoming writer's strike, there wasn't a ton of production, so there wasn't a ton of auditions. And the stuff I was going in on for was the wife, the sassy best friend, the girlfriend, you know, your run-of-the-mill, 2-dimensional supporting female parts. As the dry spell continued, I found myself increasingly demoralized and frustrated. I had always wanted to write, but felt too daunted by the task. And being surrounded by talented professional writer friends didn't really help. It felt silly to start down a new path in my 30s. But I channeled my frustrated, unemployed energy, and with my best friend, Will McCormick, we sat down every day for 6 months until we had completed a movie script. It was called Celeste and Jesse Forever, and we sold it in a bidding war to Fox Atomic, which is a subsidiary of Fox. They wanted to make the movie for $16 million. We did it. It was the greatest accomplishment of my life. I circumvented the system. And then the system changed. A month later, Fox Atomic folded, and then began a 2-year journey of watching my script go down with the whole business of major studios making smaller films, the ones that are neither big budget franchise nor tiny independents. We sold our script again to another company, and they folded 6 months later. We sold it to another company, they folded. Then yet another film financing company who wanted to make it folded. We were shutting down companies all over town. Finally, we realized that with the old system crumbling, we had to find another way. We now had a very short window that was slowly closing. If I couldn't find financing and start filming in a month, I would lose my actors, my crew, my director, and probably my mind. I had called in every favor from everyone I knew. I had put everything on the line. So we said, screw it, let's just make this movie however we can. We got lucky and found an investor, thank you for Everly Nelson, and made the movie for $840,000. Now, that might sound like a lot of money. I mean, $840,000 is almost a year of Harvard tuition. But in the film business, it's peanuts. We sold the film at Sundance, had some pretty nice reviews, and got an Independent Spirit Award nomination for writing. Launching my writing and producing career felt like a milestone, but more importantly, I overcame my own compulsion to work within the system. Even after 40 years, I have a hard time accepting that the people in charge are not always the most competent. Now I'm a realist. I work for myself. If I hit a wall, I look for ways outside the system to get things done. The hard fact is this: the real world doesn't reward rule followers the way the educational world does. And the real world is not always merit-based. The institutions and organizations we yield to and trust in to support our success, whether they be employers or government, are flawed. They have objectives that will most likely conflict with our own. I'm not suggesting you should act on your own self-interest, but be on guard, be agnostic. Don't just follow the rules and assume everything works out because it's happened that way in the past. Just because they've been doing it a long time does not mean it's right. In fact, historical precedents and traditions are often brimming with injustice and racism and sexism. Yes, hasty pudding theatricals, I'm talking to you. I think it's time to break tradition and let girls in your show, right? It's time. Speaking of change at Harvard, there's been a lot of wonderful advances even since the time I graduated. Back then, Harvard had not even had a woman as president, and a Black Jewish female class day speaker is with you today, so that's a little more history. I also understand that the final clubs are now facing pressure to admit women, including the notorious Porcellian Club. The rumor we always heard was that the Porcellian would give $1 million to any alumnus who wasn't already a millionaire by age 40. That's awesome if it's true. So if they start admitting women, let's see, what's 79% of a million? Anybody know? No? Okay. But back to you. In addition to other benefits, unlearning your rule-following instincts will allow you to get to know yourself in a real way. For the last 4 years, your identity has been wrapped up in this institution. And look how proud you made the people around you. But what about you? Outside of what's expected from you, what path do you really want to take in life? What are you prepared to tolerate to realize that path? Or are you waiting for someone else to define that path for you? As a fellow rule follower, I can also tell you that it's very painful when the things you believe in start to show their cracks and their imperfections. No job or employer or mentor will ever be the answer you want them to be. I spent my younger years hoping and praying that someone would give me a break, that someone more successful and knowledgeable than I would show me the way and save me from making mistakes. But everyone is dealing with their own flaws and egos. Don't get me wrong, I've been lucky enough to work with some tremendously talented, humble, and hardworking people, but none of them has had the answer for me. Here's the simple truth. You are the only one who could create the life you want, and you may have to break some rules to do that. Now, I'm not suggesting that you drop out of society, liquidate your bar mitzvah money, and take up kite surfing in Kauai. I mean, do that if you want, because it sounds kind of awesome. I'm only saying this. You're the only one who can create a system that's going to work for you, and that needs to start right now. Number 2, protect your instinct to care. Now I'm going to speak for 85 minutes about your instincts. I'm just kidding. This is going to be short. I'm not going to tell you to be the best or dream big or get rich because A, it's not the 80s, and B, I'm a little bit bored with the American dream of wanting to be rich or being rich and gloating about it publicly, even on a campaign trail. Seriously, what is going on? It's officially embarrassing. So I'm here to challenge you with a different kind of responsibility. A couple of years ago, in expressing concern about the worldwide policies towards the ongoing refugee crisis, Pope Francis coined the phrase, the globalization of indifference. Indifference is an insidious and toxic state of mind. For your information, there are 60 million displaced or internally displaced refugees worldwide. That's 60 million people who can't return to their home. We shouldn't be indifferent about that. Unfortunately, the world you've inherited is beat down and polarized and fraught with conflict. We as humans are not great at learning from our collective mistakes, but it's nothing we can't recover from. It will take a generation of compassion and empathy and action to make it happen, and that's where you come in. Having compassion and focus is becoming increasingly more difficult in the information age because there's a lot of information. It's hard to care about something for very long because before you know it, there's an even newer breaking news story or the ding of an email or a Facebook notification begging for you to care about it. Changing focus quickly is now a required survival skill. The good thing about the internet is that everyone has a voice. Yay! The bad thing about the internet is that everybody has a voice. Boo! There's space carved out for the whole spectrum. This disenfranchised, marginal groups who finally have a platform to talk about the injustice they've endured, but also the hateful, the anonymous, and the uninformed. And unfortunately, those voices are loud. In the face of all that noise, it's harder than ever to stay committed to do the things you really care about. But don't be distracted. Do not be dissuaded. Do not be discouraged. Keep caring. It's not enough to talk amongst your friends about the problems you see in the world. Now is the time to be vocal. Now is the time to be loud, louder than the loudest troll on the internet. And if that's not in your nature, too bad. Get louder. We need it right now. As a college-educated, worldly young person, you are obligated to be loud, to rise above the fear-mongering and bigotry and misinformation, to make yourself heard through all the noise. And you can be heard. It's possible. The way to really be heard is to do even more than you say. People tend to find it a little annoying for celebrities to be vocal about politics, and I get it. I know, I'm an actress, I'm not a world leader. And the line of reasoning is, these bright, shiny objects get more airtime, not because they're more informed or they're any smarter, but just because they played some badass hero in a movie and they think they know everything. I've often been told by trolls to stick to acting or to shut up because I'm a stupid celebrity. But you know what? I don't care. I don't care. There's too much to fight for. The equality and respect that people before us have fought for and the laws put in place to protect these things are at risk of slipping away. Young, unarmed black men are being killed in record numbers. States are passing laws that are systematically stripping away women's reproductive rights. A presidential candidate is encouraging his supporters to be violent and racist and wants to ensure that there are no gun-free zones in this country. While we're distracted with pretty Instagram shots of coffee and celebrity breakups, our freedoms are at risk of slipping away. And to me, this issue is more important than smiling pretty and talking about how much fun I had on a movie set. I am aware this could make me unlikable. I'm aware that being political could open me up to criticism. And look, every one of us wants to be liked. It sucks to have people say awful things about you. I mean, no human is immune to that except maybe Donald Trump. I'm not sure he's human, so we'll see. All this to say, care about what matters to you. And don't let complacency or feeling overwhelmed or the haters distract you from this. It's too important. As my dear friend, who I've never met before, DJ Khaled says, they don't want you to win. So you have to win by caring. That's what he means when he says win. He wants you to care. I want you to care. Whatever, you know what I mean. Protect your instinct to care. Choose love. My dad has given me some remarkable advice over the years. Actually, just a couple hours ago, he said something profound. He said, honey, in your speech today, make sure you mention my remarkable advice. He has told me you can't get an A if you're afraid of getting an F. He has told me to approach work with humility and grace because I'm really just a conduit for a higher power. He has told me to live every day like it's your last, and one day you'll be right. A piece of advice that becomes scarily more meaningful to me as the older I get. But maybe the best advice he's ever given me is to live in love and not fear. It sounded like a parental platitude when I first heard it. But then I started to apply that paradigm to every decision I made. All of a sudden, I was asking myself where my decision-making was coming from. Was I scared to disappoint people? Was I scared to fail? Was I scared I wasn't up to the task? Or was I excited and nervous about the unknown? Did I picture myself possibly pushing past what I thought my limitations were? We have to consciously choose love because it's scary. Choosing love is not always the easiest answer, and it doesn't always put you on the clearest path. Choosing love is inexorably tied to taking risk. And what this actually means to you, I can't ever know because it's different for everyone. What you love is so personal. What inspires you, what makes you tick. So I can only say, when big decisions pop up, get quiet, real quiet, and listen. Turn off your phone, turn off your computer, and listen to your true heart. Hear the thing that makes you feel sick with excitement and scares you because you know you'll learn. And do that thing. So just to review, because I think maybe some of you are hungover or maybe have been asleep for a little bit, here's what's going to stave off your midlife crisis. 1, don't count on the system, count on yourself. 2, protect your instincts and do it loudly. 3, choose love, even if it's scary sometimes. There's still plenty of reason to be optimistic about your future. The world you're inheriting has less violence, longer life expectancy, more available education, more ways to stay in touch with the people you love, more good television shows, and more flavors of gum than ever before in the history of the world. But there's still so much work to be done by you, and it's totally possible, but it's not enough to talk about it. Question everything, yes, absolutely, but then figure out how to change it. You must act, stay curious, stay empathetic, stay fearless, become a loud and fervent participant in your world. To the members of the graduating class of 2016 and the dropouts who were too successful to be here with us today, I guess what I'm really getting at goes back to this. Pull down that lever. Get your froyo, graduates. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rashida. I know I'm a tough act to precede, but I think you did an amazing job. Good afternoon, class of 2016. My name is Jessica Barzilay. I am a proud resident of Dunster House, and I am honored to serve as your second marshal. During opening days, I remember perusing the calendar of events and circling a lecture by Jill Lepore called The Meaning of Life. It definitely seemed like valuable knowledge. When I finally found my way to Siebert Hall, I thought I was in the wrong place. Projected onto the screen behind the lecturer was a huge image of a board game. Oh, the meaning of the game of life, the board game. In a lot of ways, that experience mirrors what I've learned at Harvard. It's the little things that end up feeling the biggest or the most meaningful as we stand here right on the cusp of graduation. Those late nights in the dining hall, talking into the wee hours about points of view and big ideas, stealing an hour in the afternoon to play volleyball with blockmates, or running into all our friends on the roof of Felipe's whenever the temperature rose above 40 degrees. Thank you, class of 2016, for playing the game of life with me for the last 4 years. I can't wait to see what exciting and inspiring things you all will do on your next turn.
Now it is my turn to introduce our Class Day odists and accompanists who will lead us in singing our own class ode. The class ode is meant to celebrate our shared and unique experiences of Harvard, allowing the spirit of 2016 to live on in song. I'm excited to welcome to the stage Camille Crossett, Sarah Wyant, Sophia Jonas, Renda Mellum, Joshua Campbell, Arvind Narayanan, Josh Bean, and Peter Wu, who will be accompanied by Sumire Hirotsuru and Ines Sung on violin, Anna Sato on viola, and Elizabeth Mahan on cello. Please rise and join us in performing the class ode, sung to the tune of Fair Harvard, which will conclude the ceremony. Lyrics can be found inside the program. Thank you so much, and see you back here tomorrow morning for commencement.
All right.